Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 5 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Zerg versus Terran. Where in game number 1, we find ourselves on Crimson Court. Now spawning right here in the top right corner of the map, playing with the blue Zerg drones, we have none other than Serral. His opponent, down in the bottom left, playing with the red SCVs, he goes by the name of Maru. Maru going up against Serral. It really doesn't get much better than these two playing against each other. A real quick rundown in case you're unfamiliar with either of these two players. Essentially over like the last 5 to 10 years or so, these two have been the most dominant pro gamers in their respective regions. Maru has basically won everything over in Korea. Serral has basically won everything outside of Korea. I'm assuming though, if you're watching this, you probably are well familiar with both of these players, so we don't really need to give you a proper rundown. I mean, maybe I could give you some more info, but okay, one more bit of information. Both of these guys are the number 1 and 2 respectively for all-time tournament earnings. There you go. They're both sitting at, well, at like $1.3, $1.4 million, something along those lines. Give or take $100,000 here and there. Who cares? Both of them are doing very well, and obviously they're ridiculously good. Now, this was played at the Esports World Cup, the World Championships that recently took place. Both of them historically have managed to dodge one another quite frequently. This year, however, Serral already played against Maru twice in Premier Cups, and let's just say that it didn't go all too well for our Terran player. Now, I haven't seen these games yet, so I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down. Crimson Court for a game number 1. We've already seen Serral play pretty aggressively on this map. He's been going for a lot of roach aggression, a lot of queen pushes as well, especially against Terran. He doesn't really seem to enjoy playing this map all too much. He's trying to get the games over with early. So what he usually does, and maybe that's what we're gonna see here, is take the forward third base and then use this as like a launching pad, you know, to immediately go across the map, because obviously your units will spawn pretty close. And once more, we have a little drone hiding over on the gas geyser at that forward base. Can he get the kill on the drone? Nope. Reaper trying to be annoying. But of course, this is mostly just a skill check. Alrighty. Third hatchery indeed comes up at the front. Zergling speed starts up. Only a single drone in gas right now. We'll have to keep an eye out on that gas geyser to figure out whether or not Serral is gonna go for some aggression a little bit later on into this game. He doesn't really need to, though. Maru is gonna open up triple CC. Triple CC Hellions at the very least. I'm hoping for his sake that he's also going to go Banshees. That is the norm. Alright, we should see a tech lab on the barracks in a moment. So he's going to do the big switcheroo. Tech lab over here. And then we should see a relatively safe start as well for the Terran. But if Serral decides to go for a roach attack, and he decides to go for the queen variant of that particular attack, obviously even Banshees are not going to keep Maru safe. Banshees alone are not going to cut it. Either way, he is going to go for the most defensive approach here. So it's a single Reaper into a Marine, into Heli and Banshee. Triple CC is very powerful. You can afford losing a ton of workers with this opener. So even if the Zerg does decide to get aggressive, no signs of that just yet, but even if he does decide to get aggressive, losing 20 workers is actually not the end of the world. Well, there's a Roach Warren, and it's hiding behind the natural mineral line. Second gas coming up. Oh, wait, obviously the gas is over at the front. This is the rich Vespian geyser. Lair also on the back of this. Are we gonna see Overlord speed next? If that's the case, I believe Serral's going for an all-in. And you know what? Judging by everything here, I think he's gonna go for an all-in regardless. This will get scouted nice and early by Maru. He sees the gas. Then again, though, this gas is a bit of a no-brainer. So these drones are gonna return 8 gas a trip rather than the conventional 4. So far, so good right here for the Zerg player. Nice scouting as well, though, by the Terran, who's gonna go into the cloaking field here for the Banshees. Roaches coming up, 7 of them. That's too many for it to be defensive. Are they gonna march? Yep. We're doing a nice little stroll. It takes about 7 years, but eventually the queens will make their way towards the other side of the map. They're not very fast. They could use the benefit of creep. Now, I think killing this Overlord would actually be a really nice catch for Maru, because that Overlord is thinking about throwing down a bunch of creep. Serral immediately turns it around. The requirement to throw down creep with an Overlord is just having a lair, and obviously that one is long done. Okay, one of the OVs does get sniped, but here's already another Overlord. And that's gonna provide a bit of creep. Ooh. Reason, by the way, to go for the lair here is to get the Overseer for the detection. Maru desperately is trying to make a bunch of bunkers here. He's also started up, well, the Stimpack research. If he could finish that, that would be massive, but we're still about a minute or so away from that upgrade being done. This is a very committed push, though, from Serral. He's slow pushing, by the way, with the Overlord. So he's spreading some tumors, but he's really just, yeah, trying to get the Queens in a good position to deal with the Banshees. And ultimately, with the Banshees taken out of the equation, the Ravager Zergling squad deals a ton of damage. It's about 7 biles to kill a bunker. One of the Queens goes down. Nice snipe right there by Maru, but he does lose the bunker. And this is apparently the moment, with most of the Hellions gone, that the Zerglings do run in. We've got a lot of Ravagers, and I think that siege tank is, well, also quite exposed. Serral has vision of it, so as long as the biles are within range... Banshees! Banshees! Oh, yeah, he loses one of the Banshees to the biles. 22 workers go down, and barely any Zerg units have been killed. GG is called. Game number 1 goes in favor of Serral. Alrighty, next up, we find ourselves on Golden Aura. Now, a little correction to what I said earlier. Apparently, Serral's tournament earnings are sitting at $1.65 million. That's not bad at all. Quite a bit higher, actually, than I thought it was. Maru is in second place with 1.35 million. And then for your interest, I guess, Dark in third, 1.2. Rogue at 1,076,000. Raynor in fifth with 800. Innovation right below that with a couple thousand less. And then we have Clem. Clem, of course, the recent World Championship victor. He's now sitting in 7th place with $765,000. Not bad whatsoever. Now, obviously, as with any sport, as with any esport, the tournament prize pools are incredibly top-heavy. Clem, he won $450,000 from the $1 million prize pool. Actually, he won 400 grand for first place prize at the World Championships, but then he also got the MVP award for, I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think he basically lost the fewest maps in the entire tournament, which is kind of a ridiculous statistic. I think it's basically like the highest ranked player that lost the fewest maps or whatever got like a 50k bonus. Just out of nowhere, there's an extra little bit of cash on the side. But yeah, in general, esports tournaments are very top heavy. And I actually thought this was a pretty uncommon situation until I looked into it. It turns out that's basically the case with any sport out there. Like it's the same with, for example, tennis or, for example, chess or golf or whatever. Any like single player game or sport you do, it seems like everything is extremely top heavy. Anyways, these two have been winning a lot of tournaments respectively. So they're no stranger to performing under pressure. That being said though, yeah, it's a build that Serral has executed a bunch of times over the last few months. I think that by the time that this particular series was played in the EWC, Serral already did show it as well. So yeah, maybe Maru thought he was going to be able to hold it. Either that or maybe it was played a little bit before I actually think it was. I think this was the lower bracket, wasn't it? Anyways. Interesting. Maybe Maru looked at that build and he realized, yo, I'm going to be able to hold that just fine with my Hellion and Banshee opener. If I open up triple CC, I'm not too concerned. But Serral is showing us the strength of that rich Vespian Geyser. He made that build look pretty much unstoppable with the execution. Obviously, the execution is the tough part, right? If Zerg delays that attack in any way, so say, for example, you march the Queens too late, or you don't have your Overlords in the right position, or you don't commit to the Biles quickly enough, right? If you delay it for long enough as the Terran player until Stimpack is done, like when Stimpack finishes, that attack is much easier to hold. Anyways, perfect execution from Serral. Clinical, which is the way, of course, that his gameplay can be described very easily. Okay. Now, do you think Maru is bothered by all of this? Apparently not. He's doing an identical build order from what he did previously. Serral, once more. 3.5-minute Roach Warren. This is a triple CC and probably a Hellion Banshee style, although he could go straight into Stimpak. Wouldn't really make a lot of sense. He's going Viking first. Maybe a Viking actually would have made it easier to hold, which is kind of funny, because Vikings are usually an anti-air unit, but the Overlords really were a critical part of that fight. I think this is a defensive Roach Warren though, because Serral is not added on any additional gases. So just a single gas. Nah, there's no way he's gonna commit too hard. Okay. Roach Warren opener. Interesting. Most of the top tier Zergs don't really enjoy playing Roach Warren openers all too much. The vast majority of them play either quick Baneling speed or quick double upgrades right now. Apparently Serral is still a fan of going into the good old Roach stepping stone. So he's making 4 Roaches. I don't think we're going to see any more than like 5. Just for base defense. And it's the I don't want to die to... No, he's making 7. That's actually quite a bit. Maybe he's reading into this opener here from the Terran, but nothing's all too weird. 7 Roaches seems like a lot for base defense to me, but... Anyways. Spore Crawler's coming up. Now that is one hell of a Liberator counter. That Spore Crawler is almost not even part of the main base mineral line. It is a Banshee, by the way. It's just a very delayed cloak. Curious little build here from Maru. So he's going into the Viking with the Tech Lab on the... And then... No, he cancelled it. Okay. He cancelled it. It was just a single Banshee here in the end. Cancelled Cloak. I guess he decided to not commit to that push after all. Okay, there's the Stimpak coming up. +1/+1 in those engineering base. Gas Geyser number 3 and 4. And we have additional barracks too. Already, the 3rd command center has landed over on the low ground. And now finally is when Serral went for the metabolic boost upgrade for just a little bit, but he cancelled it instead in favor of an upgrade. Okay, let's see. Very conservative play here from both of them. Both of them are pretending that they're on very, very thin ice. Playing exceptionally cautiously, but at the same time also very, very economically focused. Ah, it's a melee upgrade. Okay. So it's a Roach-based opener with a melee upgrade. This always feels extremely cursed. But the idea is that he doesn't actually want to use the Roaches for aggression here. This is mostly just Roaches that are going to be used for base defense and to make sure that you don't die to anything silly. So there's finally metabolic boost. Infestation pit on the back of this too, and we'll probably see a hive. This is going to be a very, very fast hive. So it's going to be like a 7-ish minute hive here. Probably before that, like 6:50. Yep, there it is. 6:48. That's really quick for our hive. So did Serral indeed make the right decision here? Does this allow him full immunity against all aggression from the Terran, while simultaneously teching straight up towards, well, that maximum tech? Zerg players in general have not really been too fond as of late for mid-game timing attacks. There's like, for example, a little bit of Hydroling Bane aggression, but pretty much all the roads do lead towards either like, well, Lurkers or maybe Ultralisks, at the very least some Viper play. It seems like all of those are absolute necessities in order to counter this, well, Terran late-game army. In the meantime, Maru really needs to fire up the +2/+2. He doesn't have an armory? Oh my god, massive blunder here from Maru. That's a little bit surprising. In order to go into the 2-2 research, you need to have an armory. Armory started, I think, as he finished 1-1. He probably tried to start up 2-2. And then he couldn't. He's been very focused on trying to not die himself as well. Keep in mind that Maru is the type of Terran player who enjoys sitting back and then sitting back and then sitting back and then sitting back some more. Attempted drop inside of the main base, but that is also gonna get denied. Yeah, so this is basically the StarCraft 2 equivalent of like 15 minutes no rush. These players are just sitting back, they're poking at each other a little bit, right? But if we actually look at the resources lost here, yeah. Nothing's happened this game so far. Well, they've been building up their economies. 8.5 minutes, Serral's already maxed. He's going into an Ultralisk Cavern, and now finally we have something lined up for the Zerg. We have 5 Dropper Lords coming up, although we already had a bunch of Medevacs attempting to go into the main base too. An Ultralisk Cavern. Okay. Serral can't really make the transition towards Ultralisk here, because he doesn't have supply. One of the downsides of that Roach Ravager start is that, well, you have a lot of supply caught up in units. You can't really make units here that you might want to be able to produce. So there is going to be that moment where he awkwardly has to give up his stuff. Alright, well that Banshee is going to go down. Even cloaking would not save it. Serral's trying to sneak a bunch of Dropper Lords around the site, and luckily here from Maru, I mean, he had vision of it, but I don't think he was looking at it. Good split. He still... Oh, he sees it. He sees it. Very important scout there, actually. I think we're gonna probably see another Parabomb. Does Serral realize, though, that these Medevacs for the Zerg have been spotted? Burrow coming up, too. Well, Maru technically had vision of it. I think he's once more gonna get the heads up. An Overseer is gonna lead the charge. The Dropper Lords are going a long way around, and it looks like, despite the fact that Maru had quite a bit of vision of all of this, the Link Drop is gonna hit in the main base. Mostly unscouted, and he gets the kill on the Nexus. The Terran Nexus, that is. In the meantime, we have a little bit of aggression over here, an attempted Baneling roll-by over at the third. Burrowed Zerglings are still hanging out. Luckily for Maru, he does spot that, but a little bit of sloppiness here, though, from the Terran player, and he's gonna pay the price. Is this enough Zerg to kill that planetary? I think it is. Yep. Yeah, there's no Nexus in this matchup, I guess, huh? Yeah. Uncharacteristic mistakes, though, from Maru. Not canceling the command center while under attack from a bunch of Zerglings is a really significant blunder. It's not like he's lacking the APM or whatever. He was probably just cutting it a little too close. Maybe he didn't think Serral was going to target fire down the biggest target. In the meantime, there's also a bit of a push up north, but a planetary has already finished in that area of the map. Now it's Maru, though, who's ready to try and deal some damage on the other side of the map. Now that the Roaches and the Lynx, though, have gone down, Serral is making the transition towards Ultras. 3 of them are out. There are a few Ghosts in the mix. 23 SCVs have already been destroyed, though. Serral's still just going to town on the other side of the map. 87 workers at this point still remain for the Zerg player. Is he going to try and hold on to this base? Well, he will commit right as the hatchery falls. There's still more expansions, though, coming up on the right side of the map. There's more SCVs falling on the other side as well. Maru was starting up his mass command center transition, but all of a sudden, Serral is everywhere, right as Terran is on the other side of the map. Sure, Maru may have killed 2 hatcheries from the Zerg, but he killed, like, what? Yeah, 7 drones throughout this entire game. In the meantime, he's been losing a ton of command centers at home himself. He's lost practically all of his SCVs, or at the very least, the majority of them. And that's gonna make this a very difficult game to continue playing. If Serral's gonna give him enough time, Maru can certainly get back on his feet. The problem is that Serral is not really somebody who's gonna let you breathe. At this point, he's got a chokehold on all of the things Terran. He fires up 3-3 here as well, just because he can. Drones have found a new mineral line over here. There's another hatchery that finished up in the top section of the map. Serral has taken these bases once again. He's also mining in the bottom left. Golden minerals are going to give him a nice little boost. Serral actually re-droning. That surprises me a little bit. We saw this as well in the series that Serral played against Clem. He was playing extremely cautiously. Yeah, he's actually... Okay. I think Zerg players have been bullied one too many times at the highest level as of late. They're playing so safe. Like, so safe that at some point it's no longer safe anymore, if that makes any sense. Right? Like, Serral's going double upgrades, he's going additional drones, he's making new bases, he's getting a Spire as well in case Liberators need to show up. But at some point when you play extremely safe, you're also giving your opponent a lot of wiggle room to try and get back into it. An Ultralist burrow? Sure. At least you forced another scan, I suppose. Those dropper lords from earlier are still around. Well, of course, this is one of the classic examples, right? Of when you're ahead, try to get more ahead. It's very easy to try and throw the game, or to accidentally throw the game, when you think you are further ahead than you actually are. So I think this is Serral, because this is from the EWC and because it's such a big tournament, such an important match, he doesn't want to take any chances. Usually Serral, though, has an insane killer instinct where he is just trying to get the game over with. But it's noticeable in some of the games I've seen him play as of late that he's playing very cautiously. Maybe it's him going to the military, you know? Obviously, he's still doing his military service. He just got some time away. Maybe he's been thinking about the best approach. Getting more and more patient in his old age. I think Serral's like 26. Old age confirmed. Alright, anyways. There's Infestors waiting. Can we get a fungal? Oh my god, there it is. There's another one over here. That is some beautiful play right here from the Zerg. That being said, though, yeah, these are still Zerg units. And Zerg units, generally speaking, do need reinforcements in order to kill all of this. Maru back to almost a maxed out army. Serral going +1 air. This is what I'm talking about, though. That's interesting. +1 air without ever making a flying unit other than an Overlord. 6 Ultras, by the way, on the back of this. Yeah, the Ghost is a real strong unit. It counters most of those late-game Zerg units, and even though Maru has been flat on his back for a long time, another big fungal! Those Widow Mines also dealt friendly fire to the Ghosts, and I think that's ultimately going to seal the deal. Fungal growth, Banelings rolling in, and then a bunch of Widow Mines targeting Zerglings. Zerglings were hugging all of those Ghosts. Serral's still microing against individual mines, but I mean, that was a lot of Ghosts going down. And that was essentially the entire lifeline here for Maru. He's gonna go for a Widow Mine drop. Serral splitting against it. Jeez Louise. Alright, now you're just styling on him. Alright, well, Widow Mine drop getting 4 worker kills is about the least amount of worker kills you can get against 4 Widow Mines. There's another Widow Mine drop up north. Can we scan? Maru doesn't realize that there are a lot of workers around here. Surprise! But still, right? After taking such a gigantic victory against that Terran army, Serral's still sitting back. Still hanging out. Yeah. Extreme cautiousness. It's interesting. Maybe this is the best way to play, I'm not sure. Keep in mind that over the last few years of balance patches, they have certainly handled the Zerg late game quite a bit. And it's certainly not quite as powerful as it, for example, was back in 2018, back when Serral won practically everything. I think if Serral was playing with the 2018 Zerg units, he would have never lost a game. Little things like additional range on queens. It's kind of unthinkable at this point in time. I don't see Maru getting back into this, though. Like, this is kind of like Serral playing with his food. And mentally, this has got to be a tough game, too, for Maru. Serral's basically saying, yo, you get 4 bases, but that's it. No more than that. I'm gonna attack you when you try to move onto creep, or when you try to take a 4th. Or, sorry, a 5th. You mine your little quadrant of the map. You and mine, yeah, you can mine out those couple of bases. I don't really mind. But as soon as you take a shot at another expansion, I am going to attack you. And ultimately, Maru is gonna fizzle out here. So you know what? Maybe when you're playing a series, this is the type of game that's actually a really good idea as the Zerg. Why take the chances when you can tire out your opponent a little bit too? Now Maru is not an emotional player at all. But there are certainly players out there that get extremely tilted from, yeah, being played with like this. Yeah, Maru keeps making stuff, and he is making it look rather close, but honestly, this has been an unwinnable game ever since, like, minute 9. Actually, no. There was, like, a 10-minute no-rush rule, right? Ever since minute 10. GG gets called, though. And ultimately, Maru has to tap out. Next up, we find ourselves on Oceanborn. Let's see, Maru. What can we change this time around? He wasn't playing a poor game. It's not like he was massively behind at any point either. It's just that slowly but surely Serral was, yeah, chipping away at everything Terran. And that's one of those tough losses, because we saw very similar games as well in the Serral versus Clem Grand Finals, where you play a really good game, but it's not enough. Right? And I'm getting a similar vibe right here from Maru. It's not like he played poorly, he just got outplayed. Which is one of the worst situations to be in. It's once more going to be triple command center. Hellion Banshee, I would imagine. Maybe a Viking, who knows. Maru not deviating from that plan. So it went horribly wrong for him when he first went across the map with a big army, right? Because Serral backstepped him really hard, and at that point, the Terran economy was just not good enough anymore. It was good enough to keep playing, but very difficult to get back into it. This time around, by the way, Serral opening up differently. This is likely not going to be a Roach Warren opener. He just mined 100 gas, got metabolic boost out very quickly. So curious to see him go for this style, though. I guess he likes the Roach Warren opener a little bit better on Crimson Court and then also on Golden Aura. I feel like Crimson Court is a little different because he wanted to go for some early game Zerg rushing. I guess on this map, Roaches do need to cover a lot more terrain, right? And that's... He's so good, man. Oh, yeah. He also target... Like, the Hellions and the Reaper there tried to kill one of the larvae, so Serral morphed in that particular cocoon. Then he saved the drone over here by morphing it into an evolution chamber. Evo chamber, by the way, because it's the cheapest, fastest HP building structure that you can cancel. So it doesn't cost anything. I mean, it costs like 7 minerals or so, but it's much cheaper than canceling the actual, or losing the actual drone. It's the little things. Then again, though, this is an opener, of course, from Terran, where you don't really need to deal damage. Dealing damage is nice. Dealing damage is a bit of a bonus, I guess. Okay. There's the lair. I'm assuming we're gonna see a Baneling Nest on the back of this. There's barracks number 2 and 3 on the back of this too. Stimpack coming up. We'll probably see a bunch of reactors. Yep. So just good old Marine Marauder with Hellion Banshee triple command center to start things off. There's indeed the Baneling Nest for the Zerg. The timing of which is... It's basically lining up right here with the lair finishing. So the Baneling speed upgrade, it requires a lair. Serral's going to be able to get that upgrade going pretty nice and early. He's now added on additional gases, so he can probably follow this up as well with double Evo. Yep. So it'll be Baneling Nest first, and then I'm assuming Carapace into melee upgrades. In the meantime, engineering base here for Maru are done. Barracks number 4 and 5. Jimmy, very ambitious. Tried to save all the SCVs here, but one of them ended up going down. There's the Banshees, trying to get some work in. These are, again, mostly the safety Banshees. Okay. Aliens in the middle of the map, trying to be as annoying as possible. So despite losing the macro game, though, Maru has decided, nope, we are just gonna do that once more. And this time around, we are gonna get the armory at the correct timing too. So now it lines up so you can go straight into 2-2. Maybe even go into one of these armory upgrades as well. Although currently he's not really going for any factory units yet. It is still nice to get some of those upgrades going nice and early. Serral, by the way, going 9 queens while building another one. So he's going 10 queens in total. I know. Math. It's a dangerous thing. But I managed to do 9 plus 1. That's because I still had fingers, you know? Once it goes above 10, when I run out of fingers, I'm gonna have to use my toes. It gets a lot more difficult because I'm wearing socks. I'm just kidding. I'm a content creator. I don't have legs. Pretty sure we're all just floating torsos. Anyways, there's the +2 fired up immediately. Serral's gonna scout this. A little bit of a push here in the middle of the map for Maru, but he's mostly just trying to deny some of that creep. Mathematicians are known for wearing sandals, so they can count a little bit higher. Actually, I thought mathematicians mostly use letters to do math. That's where they lost me, man. When they made me use math with letters instead. I got the hang of it the first year, the second year, and then it got more and more complex over time. It's not that I'm terrible at math, but I never really enjoyed it very much. I feel like a lot of that has to do as well with teachers, though, especially in high school. All the science-y teachers in my high school were not very nice. I didn't like them. So I didn't like their subject. I loved things like history and biology because the teachers were awesome. Anyways. +2/+2 will start up for the Zerg player in a moment. There's once again a hive. Trying to go around. But mostly this is both players touching each other a little bit, but then backing off immediately, right? They're like poking each other with a stick. Even though they have swords at their disposal. Just a little bit of prodding. But nothing all too serious. Now don't worry. We will get there eventually. Serral's gonna go Hydra then. Okay. So Hydraling Bane maybe? Into Lurkers? There's once again the 5 Dropper Lords. The 5 Dropper Lords is an interesting one. So this is very calculated. Ooh. Looks like Serral caught a bunch of the Terran army out on the map. The 5 Dropper Lords are not coincidence. This is part of the build now. Viper's coming up. And it looks like this will be a kill. No cancel. Then she could have activated its cloak, but it sacrificed its life for the hatchery. Where's the 5th? We had 5. Why are you in the middle of the map? Did you get bullied? This is just like high school all over again, man. For some reason, there's one Dropper Lord hanging out in the middle. Alright. My god. That's probably the math guy. Another cancel? Or sorry, another kill. Double back-to-back. Little wins right there for Maru. Is he gonna be able to get the hatchery up north as well? No cancel. That's the 3rd hatch in under a minute that Serral does not cancel. 900 gas down, or 900 minerals rather, down the drain. Nidus network coming up. Lurker Den also building. And here's the Zergling drops. So Zergling drops, and then most importantly with Burrow. So even when this doesn't kill a lot of stuff, it's still going to force out like 7 scans. More like 3 scans, but still. Cute little play. If you're a Zerg player, I recommend taking note. Because this is... like, this is Maru, right? Maru's very good at crisis management, but... a lot of Terran players, especially when they're playing that turtley style... they've got most of their army in the middle of the map. I think that's actually a really cool little play. Ovi drops together with Burrow. Oh, lovely splits, man. Ay, ay, ay. Every time I do that, it goes horribly wrong. We're doing it again. Look at that. You know how easy it is to select the wrong Zergling and then lose your entire pack? Just don't misclick, I guess. Alright, Infestor coming up. Range for the Lurkers coming up too. Already though, Maru has made the transition towards Ghosts. So currently we have 8 of them out on the battlefield, and that'll be more than enough. Again, man. Such quick... Just so... Setting off Widow Mines like that is one of the themes. Look at him. He's forcing a lot of this Terran army to take damage from their own Widow Mine splash. Making the Zerglings hug the units whilst being targeted by those mines. Lovely little attack right there from Serral. I think that was about the best fight he could have taken with that army, to be honest. Usually, this is the awkward moment for the Zerg where they don't have their Hive upgrades yet. They don't have the Lurker transition ready to go yet. But Serral managed that really well. Fusion Core coming up right now though for Maru, who's been building up his command center count. He'll be aiming for at least about 10. Preferably you want about a dozen orbital commands. When you have a dozen orbital commands, you can't really lose the game very well. Okay, you can still lose even with a dozen orbital commands, but it does seem like the game gets a lot more manageable for Terran when there are about 10 to 12 or so orbitals. Difficult to get to, of course. You don't want to get too carried away. There have been a bunch of pro games where Terran make too many orbital commands. It's these yellow mining machines and the scans that are very helpful. Basically, when a second mule is done mining, you've paid for the orbital. So as long as you can get at least 3 mules out of an orbital command, it's been worth it. And obviously, when you make them at this point in the game, you can still get about 20 mules. Because this game does not look like it's going to be ending anytime soon. Serral doing his signature move again, where he's got a bunch of Nidus worms to go around. I think we're going to see one at the bottom. We've already got one at the bottom. So the key over here is that the outer bases are the most important ones here, right? Because those are effectively shared mineral lines. Whoever mines the outer bases usually wins the game. So if Serral loses the one over here on the right side, he's gonna pop all of those drones inside of the Nidus worm and quickly transfer them to the other side of the map and mine out one of the opposite locations. None of the other top level players do this, but I think it's really cute. So look, there's an attack headed this way. I don't know if Serral has units close by, but I'm assuming if he feels like he can't save this, he's gonna pop the drones inside of the worm. Well, maybe he doesn't need to. As the Liberators are a little bit late, the Ghosts are running away from Banelings. Still very efficient trading right there though, excellent micro. And there the drones go. Alright, nicely handled there by Maru. The drones are going out at a different base. Oh, okay. They just went over into the natural expansion out of the main Nidus network. And there's a tactical nuke coming up as well. Okay. Tactical nuke is a Terran launch, or a Terran like luxury product at this point, right? Like it's such a nice thing to have when you have a lot of money. Nice splits again. Liberators clumped up together a bit, but they can be repaired pretty easily. Main problem with tactical nukes, much like orbital commands, is sometimes you can get a little bit carried away. There are 100 minerals, 100 gas each. And rarely do we actually see a nuke get resource value. Like, rarely do they actually kill something that's worth that much gas. But it's good for zoning and to draw the Zerg's attention away. Make them look around their bases and check whether or not there's a nuke hitting their face. And oh, hold fire right here on these lurkers. Oh, nice. Cute. Serral's been using a lot of hold fire lately. There's the tactical nuke going across. The cameraman! Hold up, I'm gonna back up. I wanted to be the cameraman, okay? Here comes the nuke. Fire the cameraman! There we go. Okay, no, never mind. We're good, we're good. Tactical nuke immediately restarted again too. Never say die. Ghost goes down though. And now the nuke is orbiting Oceanborn. We don't know where it is. Good scan right there reveals the infestor. Ghosts are once more clumped together. And this time around Serral does get a bit of value, but not a ton. He'll settle for some SCVs instead. In the meantime, we also have some lurkers going to town up north, getting a lot of kills. Okay. Still though, the cost efficiency here from Maru is excellent. Not quite as extreme as that cost efficiency from Clem, where he was getting like a 2-to-1 ratio. But still very, very nice, of course, for the Terran. So Maru's macro goal here is we have a fidget spinner lurker going to the surface. Maru's goal in this game is to mine out half the map. If he can mine out half the map, he wins the game. At least assuming he keeps trading the way that he is right now, he should be in a really good position. Main problem though that we see Terran players run into at this stage of the match is that they get a little bit over-eager. Look at the bank right now for Serral, right? Serral can very rapidly remax, and Maru is never going to be able to face that. Very rapid rebuild. Serral hunting down the ghosts. A little bit of deja vu here. We saw a similar fight not too long ago, and it went about exactly as well as this one. Once more, Maru wins that engagement, and he's gonna kill this hatchery once again. Very well done. Very well done right here by the South Korean Terran. He's getting rid of some of those Nidus worms. 75 gas each. Certainly not free. Okay. Another tactical nuke is going to be flying across. Once more for zoning. Once more to make the Zerg player panic. And even though he doesn't really need to look at the explosion, it's still going to land. Radiation is not a problem though for drones, because they only live for a couple minutes at most in this game, so it's okay. Some good abductions here, but Serral is... He's kind of stuck on like a mid-gamey unit composition, right? So he's got Hydraling Bane with some spellcasters for support. And the main reason for that is because there are so many ghosts out. There's 17 ghosts at this point, 4 more on the production tab. Maru is going to go for like 25 ghosts in this game, and they nullify essentially any late game unit that the Zerg can produce here. They're obviously also good against the spellcasters. And even though Serral can technically win engagements, it takes a long time, and Maru is using that as an opportunity to fight against all of these bases. The expansions will go down, a bunch of Marines and Marauders, a ghost or two. But that is a loss that Maru will take any day of the week. There is such a thing as too many ghosts. But it's not a problem we see in very, you know, it's kind of like if you, I can imagine if you wear too much gold, you know what I mean? Like say you have like 10 golden necklaces. At some point it's just too heavy to keep your head up. That's kind of what it's like to have too many ghosts. It's an uncommon situation. It's not one you will find yourself in. Unless you're cooler than me, I guess. But it is important to mix in some Marines and Marauders too. Maru is starting to gobble up all of those expansions. Resource-wise, Serral is still fine. But he's having a hard time making an army that can fight this one from the Terran. The fungal growth coming in once more. Nice attempt right there by Serral, but he did not quite get the value that he was hoping for. That fungal actually could have been it. It was just barely not on the units he was hoping for. I still feel like, right, after all these years... Oh, there's another one. The Terrans would benefit massively from mixing in 1 or 2 Ravens. I'm surprised that we never see it. I understand that you can make an orbital command and scan instead. But like the only losable condition at this point for Maru that I can come up with is an infestor coming out of a site that he doesn't notice, and then it just... fungling his entire ghost ball. We never see it, though. We never see any Ravens mixed into the late game. Surprises me a bit, because they're rarely an inefficient unit to make. Like, I kind of expected, right, that I was going to be able to be a real smug by now. Because I've been suggesting Ravens in the late game for years and years and years. And I kind of expected that at some point I'd be able to, you know, be like, ha! I told you guys it'd be a good idea, right? I figured I could do an I told you so by now. But it's been many years. And we still don't see a single Raven in the late game. Even though the only losable way here for Terran that we do commonly see is a fungal growth, catching the entire bio ball off guard. Anyways, no smug Lowko for now. I still feel like it's coming, though. I still feel like it's gonna come one day. But today is not that day. Wonderful movement here by Maru, though. Doing a fantastic job shutting down those expansions. Making it really difficult for the Zerg to ever find an angle. Serral's trying his best to harass wherever he can. But that massive bank he had has now fully depleted. He's still mining quite a bit, but Maru has managed to take one of those critical expansions, one of those bases that he needs to mine out in order to mine out about 50% of the map. Serral knows it. He's making a move for it. We have 9 orbital commands at this point. More than enough to sustain the Terran economy. And this is that situation in the game where Terran can get a mass amount of resources in their bank. Since the command center count is apparently sufficient, we're no longer spending money on it. And that means that Maru's bank is going to start going up real quick. Yeah, and this is one of those situations where Zerg starts to fizzle out a bit. Serral is desperately trying to see if he can make a mass amount of lurkers to catch the Terran player off guard. Maybe get like a golden engagement where he can either get a fungal growth or the entire Terran army move commands inside of the lurkers. But it starts to feel like a bit of wishful thinking at this point. Maru not bothering with any like late game mech transitions. He doesn't have the medevac energy upgrade either, despite playing a bio-based army comp. No Ravens in the mix. I still feel like there's a lot of easy ways for Maru to make his army better. Whereas for Serral, he's just trying to throw stuff at the wall and hope something sticks. Well, this time around is an orbital command in this location. You know what? Serral is getting some extreme value over the last couple minutes. The Hydrolink ball movement speed is really nice. Yeah, and Maru loses another expansion. Okay. I'm wondering if Maru got a little bit over-eager. He's lost 37 ghosts in this game now. All of his liberators end up getting abducted. There's another infestor over here too. We are one fungal growth away from this game actually being very winnable for the Zerg. Serral's running out of cash though. The only possible base he can get is this one. And I don't think that that one is really possible anymore. Like if he had infinite resources still coming in, right? If he wasn't running out of expansions, I actually think this is a very doable game for Serral. Oh, if Maru gets one more base though, I think that seals the deal. Okay, he's not gonna jump the expansion. He knows he doesn't really need to. So bases in StarCraft 2, right? They mine for like 10, 12, maybe 13, 14 minutes or so, depending on how many workers are on one. This base has been up for a long time, and Maru knows it. He's not really addressed it. He's killed it a couple times, I guess, but he hasn't really been setting his eyes on this target for quite a while. But you can see the mineral fields are starting to run out. Same for this base over at the bottom. All of those mineral fields are starting to look rather skinny. Still though, it's not like Maru has got a ton of money in the bank. No gas. Or very little. Serral's gonna go up the ramp. Tries to see if he can get a good engagement. Keeps on fighting. Okay. Lurkers trying their very best to get some sort of damage in. SCV transfer, heading up north. Or north? North is going up the ramp, right? That's what that means. Totally. The bottom left, also known as north. I need a compass. Anyways, here we go. Serral decides to commit towards the high ground. Can he break this Terran position? I don't think so. There was just way too much in that location of the map. But it was a desperation move. Serral needs to get a base going. He doesn't have the resources anymore to sustain this for much longer. Couple Hydras coming up. Couple Lurkers coming up. But Maru is tightening the noose. Just a very slow and gradual tightening. That's the scan. That's the ghost. Maybe we need a sound effect for Liberators too. Boom. 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 Expert commentary. You're welcome. You're welcome. Smash like and subscribe. I think that's how you do it, right? To be a YouTuber, you have to constantly remind people to smash like. You know what? You don't have to smash it. You can just gently touch it. If you're watching on a, like, I don't know, a tablet or your phone or something, you can just do it with the tip of your finger. Why is it all about smashing like? Yeah, you can caress the like button instead. Perfect. Thank you. So this is like the previous game, except in reverse. In the previous game, we saw Serral play extremely safe after pulling ahead. Now we see Maru doing the same thing. Serral still has a reasonable army. I mean, the only thing that I don't love right here for Maru is the gas bank. I don't think he has enough gas. I don't know if he took every single one of his gas geysers earlier. He must have. Yeah, this is still technically winnable here for the Zerg. He's got the right units. Expansion gets denied though, and that is gonna make life more and more difficult. Serral gives up on this position. I don't think there's a way out. I mean, there's very little mining remaining. Honestly, what Serral needs is this base. That one is also starting to run out. One thing, I guess, for Serral is that he did mine that expansion for a little while. He did have those resources under his control. So, I guess if like, the rest of the map gets mined out, he probably has mined about 52% of the total resources, meaning that his best way out of this is cost efficiency, right? But look at the cost efficiency here. If he would lose a similar amount of resources to the Terran throughout this game, Serral would be ahead. Obviously, Terran also pays more in infrastructure, right? Because you just need more buildings. But yeah, this is like a 20-something thousand deficit for the Zerg. Maru's got a bank and he's maxed out. Serral is at 150-ish supply with very few resources. And this is just to rub salt in the wound over here. Maru decides to grab this base as well. He's like, yo, I need more gas, buddy. Thank you very much for not mining those too much. Let me take one of my orbitals in this location, and I will finish them up. And Serral is looking around right now, and he must realize that that is just making the entire game even worse for him. Wonderful stuff here from Maru. Look at Maru scanning everywhere. He is creating a nice little... He's eliminating the fog of war for like 10 seconds, okay? A nice little trail through all of the creep. Keeping an eye out on exactly what's happening there. Those are the scans of a winner. Yeah. Must be nice to see about 20 drones sitting around doing nothing. Okay. Serral's only win condition right now is that the Terran goes AFK. I don't see how he's ever gonna be able to successfully fight this Terran army. Even if he fights this, there's gonna be a second Remax. There is about a less than 2% chance that Zerg can get it done. But hey, you know what? This is Serral. His late game unit control is phenomenal. If anybody could do it, it would be him, but I don't think there's a way out of this. He is trying to see if he can harass a little bit. The mineral fields, by the way, have been mined out very quickly by those mules. Cheeky little Zergling run by. This is that moment where Serral is sending in the drones to mine their minerals, but there are no minerals. God, that's awkward. Now, he still has an army that deals a lot of damage. They're still infestors. They're still lurkers. With a well-positioned fungal growth, like for example that, magic may still be possible. Serral gets one hell of a series of fungals, but... Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa! What's that? Insanity. Absolute insanity. The man who has infinite scans available, or at least it looks like it, decides to go for a mule? I think Maru is looking at this too, and he's like, yo, the only way I can ever lose this is to a fungal growth. Look at this. He's scanning right now to give vision for his mules to land on the final mineral fields. This man is bullying the Zerg. Look again at the minimap. He's scanning everywhere. He just stole the last couple of minerals here from Serral. We're now using the Nidus network as a way to accumulate energy for Vipers. Serral technically still has the opportunity. Oh, we're gonna pull the boys. The boys are gonna be here to soak damage. The queens are here. We try to grab whatever we can. Okay. Here we go. Boom, boom. I mean, this is some decent value for Serral. He just doesn't have the numbers. Another good fungal. I like how Maru, after being extremely patient, now all of a sudden is like, go fight on the creep! It's a bit unnecessary. We could wait until the creep dissipates for a bit, but... He's giving the Zerg player a moment where he can just believe in himself for a little bit. But much like the previous game, I think that this match has been practically over for the last 10 minutes. Now, of course, you can't criticize the players, right? They're playing for an absurd amount of money in a world championship. They're gonna try and scrape the bottom of the barrel if they need to. They will try their absolute hardest to do whatever it takes. And you know what? Maru barely has any resources remaining himself. There is essentially no mining available anymore. He's built so many structures that this game is actually starting to look a little bit delicate now. Okay, some nice abductions here by Serral. He goes in for a blinding cloud as well. Good EMPs right there, though, from the ghosts. Removing energy out of the Vipers. Yeah, you can consume the hatchery, it's alright. Okay, maybe go for the gas geyser instead. Liberators are slow pushing this expansion as well. The expansion, though, is meaningless at this point. The Vipers, man. The Vipers are so critical. We don't have any infestor anymore? No, we have one. Okay, it's right over here. There's one infestor hiding behind the hive right over there. Now Serral has been pushed into his main base. He's gonna lose all of the tech if he's not careful. Then again, what does the tech really do for you? Maru has got his opponent boxed in. Kinda like chess, he's just trying to prevent this from going to a draw now. But there is no way he's gonna lose the base race. Best case scenario here for Serral is a draw. There is no way he's gonna be able to kill all of the structures. Here we go. Yeah, the entire Terran army makes it up towards the high ground. And Serral, being even more patient than he normally is, has to tap out. Next up is Alcyone. Now, do you think we're going to see any build order variety? Serral has been mixing it up a little bit, but Maru has gone for the same strategy every single game. Triple CC, Hellion Banshee. He did make one Viking once. But we can almost, yeah, I guess we can call that variety. It's the least amount of variety, though. He went Viking into Banshee that time around, and he faked Cloak. A little bit fancy. But yeah, that previous game is a brilliant example of exactly what Maru's goal is throughout a game. He is here to play a 30+ minute game if he can, and his preferred strategy is starvation, apparently. Try to make the Zerg player drown. That's the goal. And that's gotta be a frustrating game for Serral, right? Because you look at that game, you're like, okay, what do you even do? Serral had most of the map. He had all of the resources. He had superior mining. He had a significant bank. But he couldn't make an army that could fight the Terran player straight up. Ultimately, though, it was just too cost inefficient. If he had more cost efficiency in his army, he could have maybe gotten it done. Here's once again triple CC. And what seems to be a Hellion Banshee. Although maybe a Viking first. Tech Lab is a little late. Or maybe not. Nah. We're not rushing it. No reason for it. As long as you get a Banshee done by the time that Zerg could go for any sort of aggression. So most of the roach pushes hit at about the 5-minute mark. As long as you finish up either Stimpack or a bunch of Banshees, you should be okay. I mean, the one roach attack we saw in this series was in game number 1. And that one, even though he did have 2 Banshees, was still a win for Serral. Although that was a very specific one on Crimson Court. Usually it's pretty safe, and Serral's gonna see right now exactly what's happening inside of the main base here of Maru, and he will see that everything is very standard. Cloaking field coming up. Are we gonna cancel the cloak now that the Overlord is gone? Does not look like it. There's the lair, and I'm assuming a Baneling Nest will be coming up momentarily. Let's look at the first-person view actually for Serral for a little bit. Obviously he's got a different interface than the one that I'm casting with, but this is what Serral's point of view is like. Notice the minimap Overlord positioning. So he's got little pockets of queens. He probably is using 3 control groups for queens. One's just for injecting, then one for the left side of the map, so these ones right over here. This is one separate control group, and then there's another pocket of queens a little bit further to the right. That's these right over here. And he's pushing the Overlords forward as the creep progresses forward too. So that way he can always look at the rotations of all of those Hellions when they try to go from the left side of the map to the right side of the map. I've tried playing multiple control groups for queens like this, and it's very tough. It looks easy, but it's not very straightforward at all. Because if your queens get jumped on, let me take control of the camera again before anybody gets sick. Yeah, you have to be on point with all of your unit positioning. Fun fact, by the way, about the top level pro gamers. I believe I have mentioned this before, but I always think it's interesting. Back in the day, everybody used to do their screen scrolling by touching the sides of the map, right? So they would like touch, like what I'm doing right now, the sides of their screens to scroll the camera up and down and left and right. These days, most of the top players don't do that anymore. They use middle mouse scrolling. So when you click your scroll wheel and you drag the mouse around, you can get a smooth scroll like that. And it allows you to keep your mouse more centered on the screen. That's the idea anyways. So rather than like going down by touching the bottom of the screen, you click the middle mouse and your mouse always will remain where you last left it. So technically it's a superior way to play. You could also use the arrow keys, but that's pretty bad. The arrow keys are on the other side of the keyboard. Usually not quite what you want to do. Unless you could do a very creative keyboard setup. But yeah, it's interesting. I asked this at Home Story Cup once upon a time to the pro gamers, like how long did it take you to switch over from scrolling by touching the sides of your screen to like middle mouse scrolling? And Serral mentioned it took him a couple days. It's like a couple days. That would take me... There's so much muscle memory in a game like this. Anyways, we have a marine drop coming up. Okay, nice cancel on one of the hatcheries. Armory at the conventional time. +2/+2 will start up relatively early. Serral already mining though off of 4 bases. 80 drones at this point in time. 4th command center about halfway done. 2nd factory here at the front. We're going to actually see some proper siege tank production here. We haven't seen a ton of siege tanks in this series. Serral's going Hydraling Bane though, which may very well be the reason as to why we're doing that. Hydra's outrange Widow Mines, but of course they cannot do the same thing to siege tanks. So mass siege tank production, not a bad idea. Although, well, Widow Mines are still not a bad call either. If I were to make a guess though, we'll probably see a very similar approach in this game again from Maru. Barracks 6, 7, and 8. We should see a Ghost Academy momentarily. Drilling Claws indeed coming up too. So even though he's going siege tanks, he will also be going into Widow Mines. A reactor over here, so he can pump out both siege tanks as well as Widow Mines if he wants to. Okay. Yep, we're going armory upgrades. So the armory armor upgrade is a big indicator that he wants to go a lot of Widow Mines here. Widow Mine attacks do not benefit from upgrades because they're considered spells. And spells don't benefit from upgrades. There's the infestation pit coming up. Serral will be going into a hive, but not nearly as quickly as in the previous games. So he's very much so sitting on Hydraling Bane. And he's going to be sitting on that army composition until Lurkers eventually. This is a very different map. So this map is very, very long, right? Like if you look at the amount of territory right now that Serral needs to control, this is basically impossible with a Roach Ravager based army composition like what we saw in Golden Aura. It's just too much space. So Serral trying to make sure that he's got a much more mobile army this time around, while ultimately still going into Lurkers. So all the roads do lead there eventually. The path in which he's taking though, it's all a little bit different. Okay. So Maru is slowly but surely gobbling up the map, starting up the ghost production. He will probably go into 3-3. He's noticed how Serral is very fond of mass dropper lords. So we're setting up a little ring of missile turrets preemptively. We don't have any over here, but there's one over at the bottom of the map here as well at the 4th base. Spire coming up. I wonder what the Spire is for. So one unit that gave Serral a massive headache in the previous game was the Liberator. Oh, by the way, Maru no longer has the armor upgrades. We do have a push coming up. Nice snipe right here by the Zerg, grabbing a lot of these expensive Terran units. You want to get here though before the planetary finished, and the planetary is still going to get done. Maru switched over the upgrade. Yeah. So he actually did not go for the armor upgrade in the armory. He decided to switch it over to the attacking upgrade instead. So I was going to say, he's going very siege tank heavy for somebody who's going armor upgrades. He did get drilling claws, but I think that was mostly just a luxury upgrade. Because he is going siege tank after siege tank after siege tank. And we'll see, yeah, we will see some Widow Mines here eventually, but... Okay, so... Same goal here for Maru. Try to slowly but surely gobble up about 50% of the map. Same goal here for Serral. Try to make sure you mine more than 50% of the map. Serral going straight Greater Spire. Okay, so he's got a Lurker Den together with a Greater Spire. That's curious. This is something we see a lot in Zerg versus Protoss, where Zerg has got like the ultimate anti-ground unit, right? So you have the ultimate anti-ground unit composition where you have lurkers, and you also put in brute lords. So even an immortal-based unit composition can no longer beat the lurkers. Protoss is forced to go for some sort of Skytoss, usually. The main issue here for Zerg, though, and why I've got a bit of a question mark, as we do have an attack over here, is that ghosts are very good against both lurkers as well as brute lords. Now, in theory, ghosts are very good against brute lords. The main problem is that usually you do need to find the right angle, right? In a very hilly terrain like this, with a lot of high grounds and low grounds, oftentimes the ghosts cannot actually make their way into a straight-up engagement against the brutes. So Serral will have to be quite delicate with his positioning. But he does have the option to go into both lurkers as well as brute lords right now. Tactical nuke already coming up. Okay. What's nice for Serral is that he's taken this base very early. He knows that Terran will struggle in the late game with gas. So if he can take one of these bases nice and quick, and he can mine out this rich Vespian geyser, that will be a gas, obviously, that Maru will never be able to catch a hold on. And Maru is still very, very focused on trying to just not die here, right? Like, this is not really the harassment phase of the late game yet. This is him very much so still just sitting back. So this is going much better here for Serral. I think overall, Oceanborn is just a difficult map for late game Zerg. That's exactly why Maru played it the way that he did. Now Maru is going for a very similar approach, but on another map. And I think this map is much more manageable here for Serral. So Maru is basically saying, yo, you have that base up north. I am going to take the expansion in the bottom right, which suits Serral fine because he's had this one too. That means, by the way, that Maru's next expansion after this one is going to be the one over here. So it will probably be a play for this expansion here in just a moment. That one's been mining for a while, though. Vipers are out. Serral has the opportunity to go into either lurkers or brute lords, but he is not going for any of them. As we do have a different transition now too for Maru. So he is not going to stick around on bio with liberators and then ghost for support. Instead, he's going to go ghost mech. So as the Marines and the Marauders die, he will transition them out into mechanical units instead. He wants to keep the ghosts, of course. But he's adding on additional factories now. I love this transition. I think it's very cool. Reminds me of Brood War. Nice little snipe. Yeah, it reminds me of Brood War. I think it's really neat. He can always go into Thors 2 now pretty easily if he sees a bunch of brutes going around. But look at the banks right now, right? So this is an awkward moment for Maru, and where we see it go horribly wrong for Terrans very frequently. Maru is building all of these things, as we do have a tactical nuke coming in. Maru is building all of these things. But it's very possible that if he takes one bad engagement, that Serral is just going to hold down whatever button he likes and just mass a whole lot of stuff and just send it across. It is difficult here for Maru to actually balance making that transition happen, while simultaneously also, you know, harassing and not dying to a Zerg flood. That's exactly why Serral's also going Ultras. So Serral's got the potential to go Lurkers, Ultras, and Brute Lords, and he's choosing none of them. He's scared of ghosts. He checks under his bed every night. Nice movement over here, though, on the left side of the map. The fight over on the right is also not bad here for Serral. He's keeping this expansion running, and as long as he keeps it for a few more minutes, life's good. Command center goes down in the meantime over on the 4th base. Actually, this was the 5th base of Maru. Maru not really getting going here so far. He's not really finding his groove yet. Oh, yeah, he's starting to make some more aggressive plays exactly because of it. Some good snipes going down, but those ghosts not quite as useful against the Hydraling Bane army composition, although, still pretty good. Looks like the hatchery will just get killed by ghosts. Oh, Maru! Okay, that was a little bit sloppy. But he does keep the majority of those ghosts around, and he killed the base. Serral getting all the Ultralisk upgrades. whilst not making any Ultralisks. Just sticking around on Hydroling Bane Viper instead. More siege tanks are going down though, and you can see that Maru here is struggling with juggling the left side of the map and the right side of the map. The Zerg mobility here is really being extremely helpful for Serral. He's gonna retake this expansion again. Maru is building a base over here too. Anytime Serral sees that Maru is too far on the right, he will move in on the left. Maru is actually just trying to carve a path through all of these bases on the right side of the map. Usually Terrans aren't quite this aggressive moving up to that high ground. He's saying, yo, if I have the units, I may as well go ahead and give it a shot. Not all the siege tanks though were sieged up. Nice blinding cloud too, because they're clumped up together. A lot of Zerglings are indeed jumping the tanks. This one will also go down. Reinforcing Terran units have arrived. More Marauders are actually being brought to the party together with Marines. So this is not a full Ghost Mech army. This is Ghost Mech with, well, Marine Marauder support. It's a bunch of different Terran units all together. A very complex unit composition for Terran for sure. Very easy to accidentally mess all of this up. Okay. We have a Nidus Worm happening on the right side of the map. Small group of Marines, and Serral is trying to mine what is normally the fourth base of Terran. That was an ambitious play for sure. It's not going to happen for now, and in the meantime, it looks like the gold base is in a world of trouble as well. Maru is hitting his opponent in as many different angles as possible. Okay, bunch of Marines trying to be annoying. The Zergling run-bys on the left side have been absolutely amazing. This expansion though is gonna get denied once more. So Maru is winning the fight on the right side of the map. Serral is continuously winning the battle on the left. As long as Maru prevents those Zerglings from getting into the bases, I think it's okay. He doesn't really need this. I wouldn't even mind seeing a planetary over here. I know it's a bit uncommon, but I think choke point planetaries are really strong. So we do have the Ghost trying to advance deeper onto Creep. Like, he can prevent any of those run-bys here with, you know, a planetary set up in a technical position, but I don't think we're gonna see that. We've seen Terrans experiment with it in the past, but it's not really common. 18 drones did go down. SCV starting to also lose their lives here, as the Zerglings are starting to now flood in. We've seen a lot of siege tanks go down to Zerglings here, though, and these fully upgraded Zerglings deal a ton of damage. Maru forced to retreat all the way. Fungal growth in the meantime over on the right side of the map, and the Ghosts do go down. 17 workers for Terran, about 20 or so drones going down for the Zerg. Looks like we have another command center in some trouble. Serral starting to pick up the pieces on the right side of the map, and Maru is trying to do the same thing on the left. Now finally is when Maru addresses this expansion, but that gas has been mined out for like 5 minutes. Lurker cocoons finally coming up. No easy opportunity for Serral to, for example, go into the main base, because that main base is very far away. But he can still just walk it over here and deal a ton of damage. Scans are revealing wherever the Zerg army is located, but sadly here for Maru, he doesn't actually see anything. Turns out the majority of the Zerg army has moved its way up north. In the meantime, the Lurker squad is on the right side of the map, and this is dangerous here for Maru. If he decides to send too many troops, as we do magically have one of the Overseers weaving its way through all of that Terran infrastructure. Planetary goes down. One Lurker, by the way, was left behind. Beautiful play, but if Maru would have sent too much army over here, Serral would have flooded in on the top. Okay. Drones will need to mine over here. Lurkers are now inside of the main base. Again, if Terran commits too much supply to defending at home, Serral is ready to flood in. And now suddenly, I think he will see a lot of units. I think that's going to trigger the attack. Exactly what he does. Hydroling Bane Viper, once more, moving in up north. They're going towards that newly acquired Terran expansion. What is normally the 4th base of Terran, this base has just not gotten going at all in this game. Again, cool guys, don't look at explosions. This Serral gameplay is directed by Michael Bay, as we had one lurker finishing off the planetary over here. Another command center goes down with just a bunch of banelings. Nicely done. Apparently, we still had a leftover changeling inside of the main base, so Serral uses this as an opportunity to go for another Nidus Worm, but a siege tank was left behind. Maru's still maxed out, but his bank has fully depleted. We have 9 orbital commands, which is sufficient for the Terran to keep playing. He also really doesn't need to build any additional structures anymore. So any money mined right now is going to go straight to the Terran bank. And keep in mind that there's not really a go-to unit composition here for Serral that he can use to fight this Terran army with. He can keep it at bay, he can counterattack, but he can't really fight this Terran army straight up. The Blue Flame Hellbats make it very difficult, for example, as well for, say, like a Ling run by or even a Broodlord transition. Essentially impossible, because those Hellbats, they kill stuff real quick. One cheeky little Ultralisk joining in the fight as well. Yeah, Maru is not mining much at all. This is getting a little bit awkward. He has all of those bases and all of those orbitals, but very few mineral fields to actually mine. Okay. Corruptor's coming up. This expansion will be retaken too. Now, Maru has done a great job denying bases from the Zerg too. How many hatcheries have gone down? 8. Yeah, 8 hatcheries have fallen in this game, which is substantial. Serral really doesn't have a ton of mining himself. But I'm liking this situation for him a lot better because he does, of course, have a bank. It's not huge. You can look at the current army value right here of both of the players in the top left. Serral's army is currently apparently about 8,000 minerals big, 4,000-ish gas. So he doesn't quite have the money to replenish all of the lost units. Maru's not close either, but he is getting a lot of income here with those beautiful mules. Income advantage going in favor of Terran every single time those mules are mining. An Ultraling Bane unit composition right now, though. Viper from, okay. The Sky also gets an abduction right there on one of the tanks. Another one immediately takes the same spot. Another little Zergling over here trying to be annoying. I think we need to stop making command centers, man. We've got too many CCs. Couple of Broodlords coming up. I don't mind the idea of maybe going around the map and harassing a little bit with the brutes. They're relatively slow, but it's doable. Marines and Marauders, once again, added into the mix. That Ultra achieved absolutely nothing with its life. But Serral has successfully dragged that entire army away. Where are those Broodlords going? What are we gonna... Okay, no, we are adding on more. I was thinking 4 is not that much. Where are we going? Okay, no, we're just going to... I was thinking maybe harassing from here, you know, onto that base. There's no Vikings or whatever. Ghost can kind of reach it, but it's difficult to achieve. Nice snipe right here by Maru. Gets rid of one of those important bases, and maybe he can even get a couple of infestors for free, too. +3 air attacks is going to finish. We don't commonly see the fully upgraded Broodlord. It doesn't deal much damage, but... it certainly deals more damage when it's fully upgraded than when it isn't. Only by a smidgen, though. Okay. Fungal growth, obviously, is one of the ways that Serral can get a kill on those ghosts. Nice EMP. Nice fungal. Thor's now fired up. The Thors outrange Broodlords. But obviously, again, they do need to be able to get into the fight. And sometimes they get their movement blocked by either Zerglings or little Broodlords. Or the Broodlings, rather, that the Broodlords throw. Maru has snuck out one of the orbital commands on the left side, and he's once again mining. Serral forced to become neighbors here with his opponent. He doesn't like having neighbors, okay? He lives in the middle of nowhere in Finland. I'm assuming that Serral's closest neighbor is like 7 kilometers away. Probably not the case, but still. He doesn't like having neighbors. Maru, however, lives in Seoul in Korea. He's probably got about 60 people around him. Maybe a couple walls in between, but you know, within 10 meters, there's probably at least 60 people around him. Very different lifestyle. Smart servos coming up. You know what? Maru, who was no longer maxed out and no longer really had a bank, has crawled his way back into this game very, very nicely. Ever since going for this tucked away expansion in the bottom right, Serral has been forced to put his foot off the gas, and it's given Maru quite a bit of money. Triple hatchery. Golden base actually going to be reacquired too. Almost not worth it actually, because there's only a few hundred minerals remaining in those mineral fields, but quite a bit of gas, I guess. The Brute Lords are looking for an answer. And maybe small amounts of Brute Lords and Ultras and Infestors and Vipers and Lurkers get countered by Ghosts. But now that Serral's, well, almost his entire army supply is caught up in those high-tier units, Maru is finding it tough to find an engagement where these very good units of his actually work well. Fungal growth is keeping this army of the Terran at bay. 9 SCVs go down. Not a ton of damage yet. Another rain of Brutelings, but Maru picks up the targeted Thor. Keeps it around inside of that medevac. Mitigates a lot of damage. Ay, ay, ay. Look at this. There's a command center together with a hatchery. What is love, baby? Okay, no, sorry. I won't do that to you. But still, they're sharing the money. Serral doesn't like sharing. He decides to go for that expansion. In the meantime, Maru is doing the same thing on the other side of the map. This is some proper high-level StarCraft. These two are very evenly matched. I'm still liking this position better for Serral, but we are once again arriving at that point where the map is starting to run out. And the cost efficiency of Maru has been phenomenal throughout this series. Now that he's playing a mech army, it's even better. These fungals, though, are starting to hurt. The ghosts are never really getting a good EMP off on the spellcasters of the Zerg, as he's trying to drive down these very tight ramps. And the brutes are actually putting in quite a bit of work. Blue Flame Hellbats or not. Okay. He's going to try and take the fight on creep. Fungal growth here keeps that Terran army pinned back for a little bit longer, but of course it doesn't deal a ton of damage. Serral wants to try and sneak the Banelings through. Ghosts have already run away. Majority of the Thors are now exposed. That's exactly the opportunity that the Hydras and the Zerglings were waiting for. A beautiful fungal growth as well on all of those ghosts, and Serral overwhelms this Terran army. Maru had enough. He decided to shove forward and try to go for an all-out assault. But just like that, Serral destroys the Terran army. And even though once more Maru wanted to be neighbors here, it did not quite happen. Maru forced a retreat with that expansion. Serral retakes his hatchery again in the far top left for, I believe, the 4th time in this series. Gonna start spreading creep as well from the far right. That lifeline that Maru secured a couple minutes ago has now been mined out very quickly by those mules. One of the downsides of mules is that they mine money so fast that your expansions run out real quick too. Orbital command flying on over towards the top left. Serral's now got his eyes set on a base that doesn't really matter so much. I think Maru will be quite happy losing some of his stuff over here. This mining here is nice, but not the end of the world. I think if he can secure this expansion over here, it's not bad. Hatchery. is going to plant down right next to the orbital command. Orbital commando is once more ready to return some cash. Wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see some mules landed in that spot. Looks like the Zerg army in this location has drawn out the entirety of the Terran force. Maru has spent his piggy bank, managed to bring his army back up to 163 supply. Cheeky little Zergling run by. Killing some SCVs, denying some mining. Serral has now indeed realized that this base doesn't really matter too much. A couple Zerglings can achieve the job that the entire Zerg army can. That's exactly what these guys are gonna go and do. Beautiful swarmy game here. Really cool. Yeah. Compared to the previous game, this map is just a lot more forgiving for Zerg. One of the big parts of StarCraft 2 balance is indeed the map pool. Not commonly discussed, but it's quite obvious as we do have fungal growth potential for days. Those infestors were trailing behind ever so slightly, but that could have been a disaster. It was really bad for Maru. But not quite as bad as it could have been if those infestors were a little bit further in front of the Zerg ball. 16 SCVs once more go down. A siege tank on the high ground gets killed. All of those structures in the bottom right have just disappeared. Maru now has a new mineral line. Well, new-ish. It's been mined several times by Zerg. It's been mined several times by Terran. Serral's gonna try and see if he can tank some of the damage here using the ghosts. Or using the drones, rather. There's a ghost moving in. EMP would be absolutely critical, because Serral is gonna send it. He does not want the Terran to have this base. Okay, never mind. He's not sending it. He's just slowly tipping away at whatever he can. Oh my god, look at this gigantic square on the mini-map. That is apparently what happens when you have 4 orbitals right next to each other. What the heck? I thought for a second we had a little bug. There's a massive square on the mini-map. Sorry, that tripped me up. I was like, wait, what's going on there? Is this a tiny map or what? Normal command centers are not that big. Anyways, here we go. Serral does decide to pull the trigger. Sends in all of the Zerg units that he's got. And I think with this base getting destroyed... yeah, I think with that, Maru's chances are basically 0. Serral reinforcing this with a ton of links. He's probably run out of most of his larvae. Yeah, he has 12 larvae available again. Decides to just produce the safest army composition that he can. And the safest army composition is the good old Zergling and Baneling. Only ghosts remain. 18 SCVs and about 3 army supply. Okay, a little bit more than that, but very few units remain. This Hellbat needs to kill an entire Zerg army. I mean, a Zergling is a start, but I don't think it's gonna happen. GG is called. It's Serral who wins the match 3-1. Now, correction for what I said earlier. Apparently, Serral's tier... nobody heard that.